Today we're beginning our cops, look out. Oh, geez, that was a close one. Today we're beginning our adventure in the green pastures of downtown Vancouver. With me on camera, as always, is Rick Von Schmidt. It's one of Rick's favorite restaurants here, Joe Forte's. Been around since 1985. Where does that name come from, I wonder? Well, today we're going to find out. We'll learn all about Joe Forte's, perhaps the greatest human in Vancouver history. So great, in fact, we have a second establishment named for him down in the west end of Vancouver on Denman Street. We have a library, the Joe Forte's branch. Joe is best known for what he did on the beach across from this world-famous Sylvia Hotel. This is English Bay. But before we get to that, I'm going to give you a little history of Joe Forte's. Joe was born Seraphim Fortes in Trinidad around 1863. Seraphim means angel. Some say his father was Barbadian and his mother was Spanish. As a teenager, he worked in Britain for several years. He got a job on board the ship the Robert Kerr, and he arrived in Vancouver in 1885. Joe loved it here and didn't want to leave, but it was tough to find work as a black man. His jobs included shoeblack, hotel porter, and roustabout. His heroic deeds began the next year in 1886 when Vancouver was destroyed by fire. He took people out to a boat, even saved their luggage. At some point, he found English Bay and never left. Joe loved to swim. Joe quickly became Vancouver's most popular citizen here at the beach. He became the self-appointed lifeguard in English Bay. The citizens, especially the children, wanted to go in the water, but not many knew how to swim. Joe did. He started saving people from drowning, and then this kind man started giving swimming lessons. With a warm and lovable personality, people fought through the inherent racism of the day and embraced him as a hero. Some say he saved over 200 lives right here. Joe did all of this as a volunteer. Then in 1900, the city appointed him its first official lifeguard. Joe then devoted all of his time teaching people, and especially the children, how to swim. In 1910, the city honored Joe for his many years of service to the public by presenting him with a gold watch. Got a few pictures of Joe in action here. He saved many lives, all right, including a guy named John Hugo Ross, who ironically would later drown in the sinking of the Titanic. Without much money, Joe lived in a little tent on the beach. Then around 1900, he moved into one of the shacks that used to be here at English Bay. After a while, the city decided to initiate some urban renewal and destroyed all of the shacks here. This meant that Joe would be homeless, but the people who loved Joe the most surrounded his shack and wouldn't let the city workers touch it. Here he is. The city workers said, "Okay, fellas, have it your way. But if you want to keep this shanty in one piece, you're going to have to move it down the beach a ways." So all the people picked up Joe's shack, put it on 2 wagons, moved it down a little ways, and it was right here where this little grove of trees is. Nice place for Joe. If you look closely inside this little grove of trees, there's a plaque. And it looks like they light it up at night thanks to another great Vancouverite, Joe Average. Joe Fortes lived in his little shack here, continued to save lives until 1922. I think he was about 58 or 59 years old at the time. And one night, poor Joe, he had a stroke. And things didn't look good. Vancouver's favorite citizen. They rushed Joe to the hospital, but it was too late. And on February the 4th, 1922, Joe Fortes was pronounced dead. Right here. The old building still exists. Not sure what they use it for now. It was in operation until 1958 when a more modern hospital was built just down the road. But this is it, where Joe Fortes said goodbye. 4 days later, the city honored Joe with the largest funeral ever held. It was here at Our Lady of the Holy Rosary Cathedral in downtown Vancouver. Thousands of people lined the streets, and all the schools had a moment of silence to honor Sweet Joe. After the service, there was a record-breaking funeral procession for him, leading the thousands of mourners to the cemetery where the mayor, city councilors, mounted police, members of the police commission, school board, and park board. The operations of the entire city stopped. People were hit pretty hard by the loss of this great man. In 1986, the Vancouver Historical Society named Seraphim Joe Fortes Citizen of the Century. And in 2013, Canada Post honored Joe with his very own postage stamp. It was the 150th anniversary of his birth. Joe's death hit the children the hardest, and they immediately started to collect all their coins. After 5 years, they had enough money to pay an artist to create this drinking fountain. It was erected here in 1927 in Alexandra Park, right across the street from that little grove of trees where Joe used to live in his shack. The inscription on the back of the fountain says, "This fountain erected by the citizens and children of Vancouver commemorates the life and deeds of Joe Fortes, for many years guardian of this beach. Little children loved him. And we do too. Love you, Joe." Well, that's going to do it for today. I hope you enjoyed this little taste of old Vancouver as she once was. I'd like to thank Bev Sugarman for makeup and Jewel Hillmere for wardrobe. On behalf of Rick and myself, thanks for watching. And until next time, that's a good bee.